This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. I hope everybody had a wonderful Purim. But now we're falling in the interim days in between Purim and Pesach. So we're continuing in the Shiurim on Sefer Shemais. The Shiurim on Sefer Shemais are generously sponsored by Dr. Zakheim and Mishpachta, Lila Nishmas of Shlomo Eliezer ben Rav Yaakov Zakheim, and Lila Nishmas, Dr. Zakheim's mother, Rivka Bas Tuvia Halevi, Neshama Shneheben Aliyah. Began Eden to him in Chasam. They should be in Lita Yisharm for the whole family. Now the Shiurim in Chodesh Adar are sponsored by the Israeli family in memory of their father and grandfather, Yehoshua ben Yecheskel. Began Eden to him in Chasai. Tonight's Shiur is sponsored by Reb Kenneth Ephraim Pinstauer, the Refuah Shlema for his mother Dina Bas Chana, and by David Cohen, David Elishama ben Shimon HaKohen, as a zechus b'hatzlacha u'parnasa. Okay, we have a very important shiur tonight, Parshas Sisa. We're going to talk a little bit about the hemshech of the psukim. I want to welcome all the chashuv guests tonight from all over the world. We have a makubal. We have other distinguished guests from holy places. Welcome, everybody. I want to talk about the subject matter of Parshas Sisa. We know that the main subject of Sisa is Egel, the sin of the golden calf. And right after the Egel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands Moshe Rabbeinu to make the Luchos Shniyos, basically take two. Let's try this again. First Luchos, Moshe Rabbeinu broke. And he says the second time around, nobody go up to the mountain. By the way, there's an amazing Ramban. The Ramban learns that when Klal Yisrael sinned with the Egel, it's very interesting. If I make a deal with somebody, let's say we have a covenant, and I commit to you and you commit to me. If one of us breaks the deal, let's say you break the deal, then I'm exempt from keeping my end of the deal. You're still committed to your half. In other words, we make a treaty, and you break the condition. You're still bound by the treaty. I'm not. I didn't break the treaty. But you did. So if you break it, I'm not bound anymore. You are. So Klal Yisrael is still bound by the Torah. Hashem is not bound to protect us. The deal is off vis-a-vis Hashem, not vis-a-vis Klal Yisrael. That's why by Luchos Shniyos, nobody goes up. Nobody goes anywhere near the mountain because we're already done with Maimon Har Sinai. Why didn't Hashem say Anoichi lo yiyeh? Why didn't Hashem teach the Torah again? The answer is because, as far as we're concerned, we're still bound by the first deal. Hashem isn't. So the whole Luchos Shniyos is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not for us. That's why the Kabbalah HaTorah of Shavuos is Ba'ina Nami Lachem. We have to celebrate because that's our Kabbalah HaTorah. Yom Kippur has nothing to do with us. It's Hashem's Kabbalah HaTorah. So therefore, it's a day she'en ba'achila ve'en ba'shtiya. That's the Ramban throughout the Chumash. But in any event, after HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that He's going to give us Luchos Shniyos, so Hashem is Megala to Moshe Rabbeinu Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, and then He warns us not to serve Avodah Zarah. So if you look over here on the sheet in the second Maramakim, the reason why there are no Maramakim is this was published, but without the shiur. So usually it's the other way around. Usually first comes the shiur, and then comes the writing. Here it's sort of the other way around. But we have in Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Yud Zayin, Shemar Lecha Shanochi Nitzav Hayom, and then Yigash Mifanech Samar Yaknani Achita Prizu Achivi Vayivusi. Don't make a covenant with them. You're gonna stray after Avodah Zarah. Don't bow down to other gods. Le'el Acher Ki Hashem Kano Shemai Kel Kanahu. You're gonna make a deal with them, and you're gonna bow down to their gods. Elohei Maseicha Leisasala. So after the Egel, basically the Rebbeinu Shem tells Klal Yisrael, don't serve Avodah Zarah. What's the connection? Because Klal Yisrael was just nichshal in Avodah Zarah. So Hashem is basically saying, don't repeat this. Don't do this again. Okay, so we understand the hemshech of after the Egel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sort of reminds, assures Klal Yisrael, don't be nichshal in Avodah Zarah. The $1 million question is, after that, what does the end of Kisisa talk about? The end of Kisisa is, by the way, I'm giving you luchos shniyos. Don't serve avodah zarah. And then after that, Hashem says, keep the shalosh regalim. Remember that? Well, the pasuk says, "Es chag hamatzos tishmar shivas yomim toich hamatzos asher tzivisicha lemoyed chodesh ha'aviv ki b'chodesh ha'aviv yatzasa miMitzrayim chag shavuos ta'aselecha bikurei kitzrachitim chag ha'asif tekufas hashana shalosh ha'amim b'ashana yirak hazmos ha'adon Hashem l'kei Yisrael." So, and then it says, "Lo yachmarish esatz chabalos chalerois l'fnei Hashem l'kecha shalosh ha'amim b'ashana." Basically, in the aftermath of the Chet Egel, and don't serve avodah zarah, Hashem says, keep Pesach. So it's very good. The first parsha we're going to learn after Purim is basically keep Pesach, because that's what's on everybody's mind. Why do you think more people came to the Shiur tonight? All of a sudden, everybody starts coming to Shiurim after Purim. Well, what happened before? Obviously, the Hasoirus of Purim is the main reason, but also because it sure beats being at home, right? Especially the week before Pesach, hundreds of people come to the Shiur. Erev Pesach is like, one time I had to rent that Madison Square Garden for the Erev Pesach Shiur. Why? Whatever, we can't explain all the reasons, all the siders. But as we get closer to Pesach, so it comes out very nice why we have the mitzvah of Pesach right after Purim. But what's the connection of the Shalosh Regalim to the Chet Egel? Why in the aftermath of the Chet Egel, all of a sudden we have the command to keep the Shalosh Regalim? That's what we're going to talk about this evening. So the Gemara says the Makos like this. The Gemara is bothered by it. The Gemara Makos on Daf Chav Gimel. The Gemara says, Amar of Sheshes, in the name of Rabbi Glatstein, from the juxtaposition of the Moyados to the Egel, we learn that anyone who's mefazeh the Moyados is like they worship idols. How do we know that? It says, Elohim asechel eksantalach, v'samachlei eschag hamatzois tishmar. It juxtaposes avodah zarah to the Shalosh Regalim to indicate that if you violate Yom Tiv, it's like worshiping idols. So now we understand the Hemshach Hadvarim. Hashem says, don't sin, don't serve avodah zarah again like you did with the Egel. And by the way, keep the Shalosh Regalim, because violating the Shalosh Regalim is akin to serving avodah zarah. Now, if you remember Rashi and Makos says, what does it mean mevazes hamoyados? Rashi says, cholamoy. If you're mevazeh cholamoy. So the question is, how does Rashi? If mevazeh means if somebody disgraces or disparages the Yom Tiv, simply the Gemara means if someone disparages the Yom Tiv, then it's like worshiping avodah zarah. But Rashi says it's specifically referring to cholamoy. Let's say you want some practical examples. I wasn't going to say anything, but if you're asking, I don't know if people are happy with that question, but what's an example of disparaging cholamoid? Going to great events is disparaging, your brain cells. First you wait online for 3 hours, and then they tie you up, like they're going to put you on the stake or something. They turn you upside down. They shake around whatever brain cells are still left from the last time you went on the roller coaster. You don't know if you're coming, you're going, Football players have better brain condition than people who go to great adventures on Cholamoid. But that's not Mevazeh Cholamoid. What's an example of Mevazeh Cholamoid? I could think of some examples. You're hired, So on Cholamoid, you're allowed to work if it's a davar ha'aven. If it's gonna cause you to lose money. Otherwise, yeah. Okay, so Rashi says it's specifically referring to Cholamoid. How does Rashi know it's going on Cholamoid? So it's very interesting. In the Sefer Kas Naisar, Rav Meir Varazir, he brings in Parshas Balak a davar niflamah. He says, why is being mevazeh Cholamoid like avodah zarah? Or why is being mevazeh Yom Tiv like avodah zarah? By the way, someone who does malach on Yom Tiv, it's not chayv misa, it's not like Shabbos. It's only a lava asay. Yom Tiv's only a lava asay. So why would disgracing Yom Tiv be like avodah zarah? So he says something amazing. And really, it's not a regalata. And it should really be a many-part series. I'm going to say the whole thing right now. Right now, in one share. Tell you the whole thing right now. When did Kal Yisrael serve the Egel? Does anybody know what hour? What time of the day? Vayar Moshe ki bashesh. It was the 6th hour. It was basically chatzos. What? Chatzos hayom. It was chatzos. It was the time of mincha. Last year we learned that Egel is gematria 103. Mincha is gematria 103. Mincha is keneged the chet ha'egel. But they sinned at 12 p.m., which means they sinned ad ha'erev 6 hours. The chet ha'egel took 6 hours. They were sinning for 6 hours. Now let's calculate for a moment. How many hours is Yom Tov? How many hours is Yom Tov? Well, how many days of Yom Tov are there? You have 7 days Pesach. You have 70 days of, 7 days of Pesach, 7 days of Sukkot, not counting Shmini Atzeret, and 1 day of Shavuot, 15 days. 15 times 24, well, 10 times 24 is 240. 5 times 24 is 120. There's 360 hours of Yom Tov. How many hours do they spend with the Egel? 6 hours. So Yom Tov is Mavatel the Chet HaEgel B'Shisha. The mitzvah of Yom Tov is Mavatel the Chet HaEgel B'Shishim. There are 360 hours of Yom Tov. It's Mavatel the Chet HaEgel B'Shishim. So therefore, if you observe Yom Tov, it brings kapara for the Egel. But if you're Mavatel Yom Tov, so you're only keeping 359 hours of Yom Tov, so now the Chet HaEgel re-emerges. So anyone who's Mavatel the Yom Tov, it's like they worship Avodah Zarah, because they're bringing back the Chet HaEgel. So the idea of Yom Tov is Mavatel the Chet HaEgel B'Shishim. The Kosnei Star, by the way, says something amazing. He says now that's how Rashi knows that it includes Cholamayit. Because if it didn't include Cholamayit, then you don't have 360 hours. The Raya that includes Cholamayit is why is being Mavazda, why is desecrating Yom Tov like serving Avodah Zarah? Because Yom Tov is 360 hours, and Zavato the Chet HaEgel B'Shishim, but it obviously includes Cholamayit, because if it didn't include Cholamayit, you don't have 360 hours. According to the Kosnei Sar, by the way, it comes out very beautiful, the juxtaposition of the Shalosh Regalim in the end of Kisisa. He doesn't write this, but it comes out very nice. In other words, you're learning the Parsha, you say, what in the world is the Shalosh Regalim doing at the end of Parsha Kisisa? What's it doing? How did it get there? So one thing I like to say, by the way, what's at the very end of Kisisa? What does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He puts on a mask, right? Why is he wearing a mask? They just came out. Masks don't do anything. So why is he wearing a mask? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu wearing a mask? The answer is because his face was shining. Why is his face shining? Because he was makabel the Torah. So this is a remez that on Purim, when we're makabel the Torah, like Moshe Rabbeinu, we wear a mask. It's a very beautiful remez to the concept of wearing masks on Purim. But what's the Shalosh Regalim doing at the end of Parshas Kisisa? The answer is Hashem says, I'm not happy you serve the Egel. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to teach you Yud Midas Harachim. I'm going to give you Luchas Shniyos. I'm going to warn you, don't serve Avodah Zarah again. And I'm going to give you a tikkun for the Egel. What's the tikkun? The tikkun is the Shalosh Regalim. Okay. Now, but it still requires explanation. By the way, I want to add. No. The answer is, Beis Halevi writes that the first Luchais, everything was written on the Torah, including the Torah Shabbal Peh. So therefore, the Luchais were shining. But Moshe Rabbeinu was just the recipient of that Torah. Luchais Shniyos, only the Torah Shabbal Chsav was on the Luchais Shniyos, and the Torah Shabbal Peh was written on the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he became not the recipient of the Torah, he became the Chetza of the Torah. And therefore now, this time around, Moshe Rabbeinu was shining. By the way, do you remember in Parshas Balak, when Bilam was talking to who? Azriel. Bilam had a conversation with his donkey. And what did Bilam do to his donkey, Azriel? He simcha like him. He smacked the donkey. And what did the donkey say? Did the donkey say, why did you do that? How many times did he do that? 3 times. Lama zahi kisani shalosh regalim. Says Rashi, you think you're going to destroy a nation that observes the 3 regalim? Why is the donkey challenging Bilam? You think you're going to destroy Klal Yisrael? They observe the Shalosh. Why did the donkey say you're going to destroy Klal Yisrael? They keep Shabbos. You're going to destroy Klal Yisrael. They wear tefillin. You're going to destroy Klal Yisrael. They learn Torah. Why is the donkey focusing on the Shalosh Regalim? It says because Noisar, because Bilam had a hard time cursing Klal Yisrael until he gets to the Midbar. Vayoshes el Hamidbar Panav. What does Targum say? What's he looking at? Ched ha'egel. He's honed in on the Ched ha'egel. Now that I have honed in on the Ched ha'egel, now I could curse them. Bilam's angle on Klal Yisrael was they're going to sin with the Egel. They sinned with the Egel. I could curse them. So the counter of the donkey is you can't touch Klal Yisrael. Yeah, they sinned with the Egel, but they observe the Shalosh Regalim. Shalosh Regalim is mevatel the Egel b'shisha. That's why the donkey responds Lama zeh ikisani Shalosh Regalim. Okay, let's think about this for a moment. I understand that the Yom Tif is 360 hours, and the Ched Egel was 6 hours. But the question is, what's the connection between the Shalosh Regalim and the Egel? How's the Shalosh Regalim mevatel the Ched Egel? So let's talk about an idea, very important idea. Azriel, our mitzvah is good. Good, very good. Mitzvahs are a good thing. Is it good to do a mitzvah b'simcha? What's worth more, a regular mitzvah or a mitzvah you do b'simcha? But that wasn't one of the choices. Yeah? The simcha's the answer. Okay. Now the next question is, so you do a mitzvah b'simcha. Do you get more schar for the mitzvah aspect of the mitzvah? Or do you get more schar for the fact that you did it b'simcha? What's more value, right? You did the mitzvah b'simcha. You came to the shiur b'simcha. So you get more schar for the mitzvah of learning or the simcha element. Rabbeinu Bachai says you get more schar for the element of simcha. Actually, it's double. The mitzvah is worth 1 point. The simcha itself is worth 2 points. Okay. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's reaction when Hashem said, raid Kishiches Amcha? When Moshe Rabbeinu heard from the mouth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Klal Yisrael served the Egel, what was Moshe's reaction? What did he do to the Luchais? When Moshe heard Klal Yisrael worship the Egel, no? There. No, wrong. Trick question. When Moshe heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Klal Yisrael served the Egel, he did nothing. Then Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from Har Sinai, and he sees them worshiping the Egel. So what does he do to Luchais? Nothing. Also a trick question. The pasuk says, "Vayhi kasher karav reid kishiches amcha." He didn't break the Luchais. Vayhi kasher karav machana. He didn't break the Luchais. Vayar es ha'egel u'mechoylois. Vayicharav Moshe. He saw the dancing. Vayashech miyad es haluchas. Then he breaks the Luchais. Says the Sparno that a person does an avera. It's okay. It's not okay. We could do tshuva. But if you do an avera and you enjoy it for simcha, you're done. You're toast. Toast. But not regular toast. Very crispy toast. Says the Sfarno on the pasuk. Moshe does nothing. But Vayaris Egel L'Choylos, says the Sfarno, look at Oizvav. Kishara Shahayu Smeichim Bekilkul Sha'asu. When he saw, they rejoiced over their corruption. Kenyan, like it says in Yiriyah, Kira Askhi Az Ta'alezu. V'zeh Hiskatse, Moshe got angry. V'noyos. He gave up hope that they could do tshuva. Sheyuchal L'sakin HaMuva. Boyfen Sheyachsaru L'tamusam. Moshe said if they're enjoying their sin, they'll never be able to return to their original state. So even though when Hashem told Moshe they served the Egel, did Moshe believe Hashem? Of course, he believed in them with a shlema. When Moshe saw them worshiping the luchos, did he believe they were worshiping the luchos? Of course. But he didn't break the luchos until he saw that they enjoyed it. If you enjoy sin, you're toast. Sometimes people want to know, why should I go to the shmooze, but I'm not going to listen anyway? Yeah, but at least you feel guilty about it. That has so much value. Don't enjoy the Avir. And once you can't enjoy it, then like the whole thing is pointless. But to enjoy sin, it's very difficult to correct sin that it was enjoyed. So the ikar ched of the Egel was not the avodah zarah; it was the simcha. So many years ago, my good friend, the Rosh Kollel, and he's now in Boca, Reb Nachman Luban, told me over the name of Rabbi Avram Shmulevitz that the Sforno says in Parshas Mishpatim on the pasuk, Shalosh regalim tachai gli bashana. Says the Sforno, what's the inyan of the Shalosh regalim? Says the Sforno ke-inyan Yismach Yisrael ba'oisav hepech vayaras ha'egel machayim. The purpose of Yom Tif and enjoying the Yom Tif, it's a tikkun for the Ched ha'egel, because the Ched ha'egel was simcha shel aveira, and the mitzvah of Yom Tif, the mitzvah of simcha is simchas Yom Tif. It's zeh l'umas zeh. That's the tikkun. The tikkun is the simcha of Yom Tif. So it's not just like some kind of, Xeris HaKasav. 360 hours of Yom Tif is Mavatal, the Egel, and Shishim. It's that the most corrosive element of an Avera is enjoying the Avera. And therefore, the Simcha of Yom Tif is specifically targeted to Mavatal Avodah Zarah. Therefore, if somebody doesn't observe the Yom Tif, call him Mavazes HaMoyados, including Chol HaMoed, it's Kilu Oived Avodah Zarah. Okay. Now, the truth is, anybody know who made the Egel? Who made the Egel? Who? Aaron, he's the Egel that Arizal says was made by Yunus and Yumbarus, the Bnei Bilam. That's why Bilam was so fascinated with the Egel. Eg Vayaras, Vayoshes, Alamidbar Panav, that's his nachas. When Bilam when Bilam, during Chazar Sashatz, was schmoozing with his friend, while he took out his phone, he was telling people about the nachas he had. That's his, my nachas. My goyish nachas is that my kids built the Egel. Can you imagine? That's what he spoke about during Chazar Sashatz. Well, only 3,000 Jews served the Egel. Yeah, very good question. The Kuzari asked, that means basically nobody really served the Egel. So the Kuzari says the following great principle. I heard this from Rabbi Glatstein. Let's say you're walking down the street and you see some hoodlums on the other side, and the guy has a stain on his shirt, and you're across the street. What do you say to yourself? What do you say to him? Do you say you should really take your shirt to the cleaners? Would you do that? Why not? Because you don't care that he has a stain on his shirt, right? What if your kid has a little stain on his shirt? What do you tell the kid? You shlamazel, you shlump. What if the kid has this little thing on it, right? Messy kid. Why? Because he's a kid. You love him. You want him to be perfect, right? And imagine if he's going to a wedding and he has a little speck. You tell him, how do you dress? Why? Because you love him so much. You care about him. You want him to look perfect. So the Navi Amay says, Rak estem yadati mikol mishpachos ha'adama. I only love you. Therefore, I visit punishment on you for every small infraction. The Rebbeinu Shalom holds Klal Yisrael to a much higher standard. Why? Because he loves us. He doesn't care about the nations of the world as much. They're not his children. But Klal Yisrael, the reason Hashem could take a little Avera, and every Avera in the Torah is exaggerated. That's the Averos mentioned in the Chumash are grossly exaggerated. The Ched HaEgel is a big Avera, barely anybody sinned. It was made by the Meragla, it was made by the Erev Rav, 3,000 out of 600,000. But still, okay, now let's think about something for a moment. we're going to talk a little bit about the Yom Tov of Sukkot. Because now we're learning that the Shalosh Regalim are a precise tikkun for the Chet HaEgel. Shalosh Regalim, 360 hours, connected the 6 hours of the Egel. We all know the famous Kasha of the Torah. The Torah wants to know, why do we celebrate Sukkot? Now we're up to Sukkot. How long is Sukkot? 7 months. So it's already getting very close, right? The reason why we're talking about it now, we could also say, by the way, why this week's Parsha talks about all the regalim. We know the famous teaching of the Chidah. Reb Chaim Yosef David Azulai. When was his yard site? Yud Aleph Adam. Yud Aleph stands for Yosef Azulai, who was born on the day the Chidah passed away. Rabbi Yaakov Abi Chatzera. Yud Aleph stands for Rabbi Yaakov Abi Chatzera. Anyway, the Chidah says Purim is the makar of all the Yom Tov. So now, right after Purim, we have to learn about all the Yom Tov and how. Purim, Pei stands for Pesach, Vav, V'Sukkos, Reish, Rosh Hashanah, Yud, Yom Kippur, Mem, Matan Torah. As the Bnei Yissacha, come on, Vav stands for V'Sukkos. Bnei Yissacha has a long maracha, how Vav is the most appropriate way to capture the essence of the Yom Tov of Sukkot. But let's talk a little bit about Sukkot, because Purim is Koilel V'Sukkos. What are we celebrating on Sukkot? The return, the Anani HaKavod. So the famous question of the Torah is, Anani HaKavod came in the month of Nisan. We should sit in Sukkot in Nisan. The Torah says we're going to sit in Sukkot in Nisan. No one's going to recognize we're doing it to commemorate Anani HaKavod. People are going to think we're just enjoying the weather. But the Gra famously answers that Sukkot is not a commemoration of Anani HaKavod. Sukkot is a commemoration of the return of the Anani HaKavod. That after the Chet HaEgel, what happened to Anani HaKavod? Anani HaKavod left, and Hashem said, adios, I'm not with you anymore, you're on your own. Hine anoshi sholech malach, I'm sending an angel, matat, I go my way, you go your way, I'm not with you anymore. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, please, if you don't come up with us, we're not going anywhere. So Hashem said, I can't be with you, it's too complicated. You go your way, I go my way. Moshe Rabbeinu said, please, you have to be with us. So Hashem said, okay, let's try this one more time. Take 2. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai a second time. Hashem said, all right, let's give this another shot. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up a third time. Rosh Chodesh Elul. He comes down on Yom Kippurim. Hashem says the magic words, Salachti kidvarecha. And what happened on that fateful Yom Kippur? They look up to the sky, and what happened? Another trick question. Nothing happened. The Anani HaKavod did not return. Hashem says, I forgive you, but I'm not interested in you anymore. You know, nowadays, the Yeshiva B'Chas Chas to go to a pizza store doesn't pass, especially if it's not Pas Yisrael. But back in the day, they said it used to be, let's say, when you would go to a pizza store with your friends. So imagine if every Friday at Azriel. Do you like pizza, Azriel? When you used to like pizza, Azriel, I used to go out with your friend, and then one time he insulted you. So he asked you for mechila, and you say, I'm. So then he calls you up, Azriel, you want to go for pizza? You say no. So he said, I thought you were meichel. You say, I'm meichel you, but I don't like you anymore. So that's what happened on Yom Kippur. Hashem said, macholach, 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 but I don't like you. I'm meichel you, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not interested in you. So Klal Yisrael said, please, please, please. They started to make the Mishkan, and the Anani HaKavod came back on the 15th day of Tishrei. So Sukkot is not a commemoration of Anani HaKavod, it's a commemoration of the return of the Anani HaKavod. Now it's interesting. That means, when was the Chet HaEgel Nimchal Legamri? Sukkot. Why Sukkot? Why not Pesach? Why not Shavuot? Because the Iker Zman Simchaseinu is Sukkot. Pesach is Zman Chiruseinu. Shavuot is Zman Matan Taraseinu. Sukkot is Zman Simchaseinu. So the Iker Takana for the Chet HaEgel is Sukkot. 6 months later. Well, 1 second. They made the Egel on Shavasa B'Tammuz. So not right. So Av to Elul, like 3 months later, a little bit later. Yeah. So it's interesting. There's one wild card over here that we forgot to mention. How many days of Yom Tov did we calculate? 15. What are they? 7 Sukkot, 7 Pesach, 1 Shiurim. What happened to Shmini Atzeret? What happened to Shmini Atzeret? So we have an idea that Shmini Atzeret is Regel b'fnei atzmo, a Regel by itself. How is it a Regel by itself? So in Gemara and Be'ah, we had Hazar Kasem. 6 ways that Shmini Atzeret is a Regel by itself. But I think in this system, we could explain why Shmini Atzeret is a Regel b'fnei atzmo. It's interesting. What do we do? What? It should be included, right? What do we do on Shmini Atzeret? We have Simchas Torah. What does that have to do with anything? It's the Yom Tov Sukkot. Why are we having Simchas Torah? So you said, well, we happen to finish the Torah. Okay, really? But that's only because we have a 1-year cycle. What about back in the day? Then there was a 3-year cycle. They had Simchas Torah once every 3 years. Imagine you get a call that the shul sends out a bulletin. Okay, whoever wants Pekalach, order now. No, that's in 2 years. We're not doing it this year. No Simchas Torah this year. What happened? When they used to lane the Torah once every 3 years, but they still had Simchas Torah every year, even though they didn't finish the Torah. They could be up to Parshas B'Shalach and they're having Simchas Torah. They could be up to Parshas Shlach and they're having Simchas Torah. So somehow Simchas Torah is connected to Yom Tov, not actually connected to finishing the Torah. So according to this system, it comes out Oyam v'nayim. What's the purpose of the Shalosh Regalim? To be mechaper for what? So one way of doing it is we're mevatel b'shishta. But really, we know from Rabbeinu Yoina, the best way to be mesake in a chet is b'makom asher ibsu. In the manner of which you were nichshal, you have to correct it. So, for example, Rabbeinu Yoina says that if somebody did not use their eyes properly, they should be masaking it by lowering their eyes. If somebody sinned the lashon hara, they should be oisik the Torah. Whatever aver you did in avera, you should do a tikkun with that aver. Therefore, we could humbly suggest that since the Shalosh Regalim are a tikkun for the Chedo Egel, so you have 2 different systems. One system is the Shalosh Regalim, 15 days, 360 hours. But in this sense, Shmini Atzeret is Regel b'fnei atzma. Shmini Atzeret stands by itself as a tikkun for the Egel. I once said this, but not. This is much better. So you could say it 2 ways. One is the grand finale of the Shalosh Regalim as a tikkun for the Egel is we gotta counteract precisely the Aver of the Egel. What was the Aver of the Egel? That they worshipped Avodah Zarah? No. Vayares ha'egel they were dancing in circles. So not until Simchas Torah, when we're dancing in a circle for Kavanah Torah, only then it's a tikkun for the Egel. So the dancing with the Torah and Simchas Torah, it has nothing to do with finishing the Torah. It's not because we finish the Torah. It happens to work out very nicely that nowadays we finish the Torah, but there was time in history that 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 times we were finishing the Torah and Simchas Torah. It's because Shmini Atzeret is the grand finale of the Shalosh Regalim. And the tachlis of the Shalosh Regalim is Shalosh Pamim Tachad Li Bashana Keneged Vayaras Egel U'Mecholos. So to be masakin, the dancing and the simcha of the Egel, we counteract that with the dancing on Simchas Torah. So then it comes out that in that sense, Shmini Atzeret is Regel b'fnei atzma. One system of being masakin is Shalosh Regalim, 15 days, 360 hours. And one Regel b'fnei atzma is the dancing of Simchas Torah is a tikkun for the Chet HaEgel. We could add one more idea. It's interesting that Moshe Rabbeinu comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you were with us. Harini nak vayda, show me your glory. And Hashem says, no. Hinei anochi sholech malach. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want to see your face. Im ein panecha hoilchim al ta'alenu mizah. If your face is not with us, then don't take us up. So Hashem says, I can't. Lo yirani adam b'chai. No living person could see my face. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, come on, please. If we don't see your face, we're not moving. So Hashem says, can't do it. You could see me from behind. You can't see my face. So Chazal say, Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu what? The Kesher Shalom. So if you would read the exchange between Moshe Rabbeinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it seems like Moshe is asking Hashem, show me your face, show me your face, show me your face. And would you say Hashem said yes? Or would you say Hashem said no? Seems like no. It wasn't a hard no. It was like, okay, I can show you from behind, but you can't see my face. And then we have the Parsha of the Shiurim. But it's interesting. Hashem ends off the mitzvah of the Shiurim. Shalosh ha'amim b'hashana yiraya kol zechurcha es Hinei ha'adayin Hashem. So we could interpret it. So you know what, Moshe Rabbeinu? Even though I told you lo yirani adam b'chai and panai lo yero, you can't see my face. But barisas achoyrai, but you asked so nicely. So I'm going to accede a little bit. You know what? I'll give you some semblance of being able to behold my face in this world. What is that? The Shalosh Regalim. And that's why Hashem says, Shalosh ha'amim b'hashana yera kol zechurcha es Hinei ha'adayin. So the ability to celebrate a Yom Tov is in some shemet, some semblance of beholding the countenance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. So now we have a very beautiful flow of Parshas Sisa. We have the Ched Egel. We have Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah for a tikkun for the Ched Egel. So Hashem teaches Moshe Rabbeinu, you give Midas Sharach. Hashem says, Moshe reminds Moshe, make sure they're not Nichso and Avodah Zarah. Then Hashem gives us the Shalosh Regalim. From there we learn if you're Mavaza, the Moyed, including Chalamoyed, is Ki'ilu Oved Avodah Zarah. That's how Rashi knows even Chalamoyed. The Lamda says 360 hours of Yom Tov, Mavaza, the Ched Egel, the Shishim. And the mechanism is, the Iker sin of the Egel was the Simcha of the Egel, and the Simcha of Yom Tov is a direct tikkun for the Simcha of the Ched. So now we're in the Zman of Mishnichnas Adar, Marva and the Simcha. So you think, okay, we're done with that. We're finished with that. We already did that. You know, Purim is over, and now I get to go back to being depressed again, and I'm much happier being depressed than having to be happy. It's very difficult to be happy. It's much more enjoyable to be a grouch than to have to be happy. But the bad news is, if you remember what Rashi says on Mishanichnas Adar Marvin Simcha, what does Rashi say? Yemei Nisim Hayu Yisrael Purim uPesach. Azriel, is Pesach in Adar? No, it's what Rashi is talking about. Purim uPesach. Mishanichnas Adar Marvin Simcha Purim uPesach. Says El Yarabba. From here we learn that the Mishanichnas Adar Marvin Simcha continues into the month of Nisan. So I wish everybody continued Simcha, not only in Chodesh Adar, but in Chodesh Nisan as well. Thank you very much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.